largest part of the population. That political courage is demanded of you today, and I believe that you are up to the task. This is not a zero-sum game where there is a winner and a loser. All we can ask is that you think beyond past and imagine what future is for your peoples. I would like to thank you for trusting us today and wish you a fruitful discussions. As Djiboutians, we also remain hopeful that our brotherly Somali peoples will find a way forward together and will always stand with you to help foster the best outcomes for everyone involved. Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum. Maalini Wanaksan. I am immensely delighted to be in this beautiful city of Djibouti, to once again enjoy the generous hospitality of my elder brother and friend, President Ismail Omar Goleh. I am equally pleased to be with my dear brothers and neighbors, President Mohammed Abdullahi Farmajo and President Muse Bixi. Today, this important gathering of the leaders of the Horn of Africa gives me a good opportunity to reflect on the significance of peace, genuine reconciliation, mutual beneficial cooperation, and security. In fact, this is a family gathering more than anything else. I always say our countries are joined by one umbilical cord. We are blood brothers, and we must be proud of that. Dear brothers, the Horn of Africa has experienced prolonged periods of bad governance and failed leadership. We are too familiar with the destruction, displacement, and the decades of economic backwardness generated by senseless conflict. We need to change course and start a new era. We need to cultivate hope and build a better future for our people. As an integral part of the one family, the Somali people constitute one of the largest and most resilient people in the Horn of Africa. Somalis are largely energetic, dynamic, independent-minded, and entrepreneurial, also friendly. After decades of conflict and despair, Somalis are yearning for charismatic, visionary leadership that can galvanize their spirit, strengths, and resource, and rally them to a future of prosperity and peace. With the commitment of putting differences aside for mutual growth, the leadership is you. As a family and neighbors whose people have been pitted against each other for decades, whose people have been deprived of a stable environment for social and economic development and peaceful coexistence, whose people have been forced to endure in a state of perpetual poverty, we must understand that huge benefits are to be gained from investing in peace, reconciliation, and integration. My brother, Mohammed and Muse, you have choices to make today to embrace the spirit of forgiveness, reconciliation, and genuine healing, and unleash the power of your people. The leadership you make will also have profound impact on our region and set an example to other regions of Africa. A reconciled, peaceful, and prosperous Somalia had the potential to become a formidable economic powerhouse. Somalia is endowed with abundant natural resources, that longest coastline in Africa, rich marine resources, fertile, productive agricultural land, ample livestock assets, and untapped mineral deposits such as uranium, petroleum, and gas. Therefore, to fully harness the abundant human and natural resources, a reconciled, democratic, stable, and peaceful Somalia state is very critical. At the dawn of the 21st century, the Horn of Africa cannot remain trapped in internal conflict, ethnic divides, violence, and poverty. The countries of the Horn of Africa combined possess immense natural and human resources, economic potential, and a year-round favorable climate, which, if positively exploited, could enhance our geopolitical position. Together, we can pool our resources to break the vicious cycle of poverty and despair and uplift the lives of our people. This is why I believe your brotherhood is the engine of our regional integration. Dear brothers, Muhammad and Muse, this year moment, nations are transformed by visionary and courageous leaders. As leaders of this great people, you have the power to shape the destiny of your people, the power to translate into achievable goals the big dreams and hopes of your fellow citizens. Your strength lies in your solidarity. Together, you can rise as a nation and overcome monumental challenges. I urge you to seize the moment and look forward to a future of peace and prosperity for the Somali people. Both Brother Ismail and I are genuinely interested to work hand in hand with our brothers and neighbors to finally settle their differences through genuine reconciliation, forgiveness, and accommodation. This is what the traditional norms and regulations of here demands from you. There is no any other way other than coming together and talk for peace and reconciliation. Guided by virtues of the Marnaba philosophy and in the spirit of good neighborliness, mutual cooperation, open borders, integrated economies, peaceful coexistence, we can certainly rise together.
Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, it's a great pleasure for me and my delegation to be part of this historical summit here in Djibouti. Let me take this opportunity to thank my older brother, His Excellency Ismail Margele, for the warm welcome and hospitality accorded to me and my delegation. It's an extraordinary honor for me and surely for all Somalis that we are here today to convene our historic talks on Somali's future here in Djibouti, following our last meeting in Addis Ababa with my brother Muse Bixi. The Somali government and its people also express true and sincere gratitude to the Prime Minister of Ethiopia, my brother, His Excellency Dr. Abiy Ahmed, who organized and arranged for me our first meeting with my brother Muse Bixi in Addis Ababa. We thank you, Dr. Abiy, for your support and commitment on resuming the talks between the two parties. Let me also extend my gratitude to the most senior diplomat, the United States Ambassador to Somalia, His Excellency Donald Yamamoto, for his role and commitment to ensure these historical talks to take place here in Djibouti. He really worked hard day in and day out to make sure that this conference finally come to fruition. I would also like to recognize the contributions of all other members here. Indeed, we are here today to open a long-awaited historical talk between federal government of Somalia and Somaliland government to renew our commitment for open and honest dialogue on future relations to achieve long-lasting peace and prosperity for our society. Federal government of Somalia is committed to address all outstanding issues and bridge the gap between the two sides. It was 20 years ago today when the historic Arta conference was held here in Djibouti, following 10 years of civil war in Somalia, and several unsuccessful reconciliation processes took place in the region. Thanks to the leadership of His Excellency Ismail Omar Gele, who finally succeeded to host the Somali Reconciliation Conference in 2000, which paved the way the formation of new Somali government. Now, again, we are here, and we thank you, my brother Gele, for hosting similar dialogue after 20 years, which we are all grateful for, and it is indeed another historic epic in the making, which require us to have the necessary courage and determination to take advantage of your tireless effort to help us. And yet, my brother Bixi and I are here to make very tough decisions so that our people will have a better and future and prosperous future. I thank you.
Though we may be separated by land and sea, nothing will diminish the important role you all play and will continue to play in your efforts to bring peace and stability to the African continent. The region is suffering from a combination of unprecedented challenges, which range from the COVID-19 to environmental and socio-economic issues. Regional cooperation and hegemony is urgently required to steward the vulnerable to more prosperous and stable future. Restarting of these mediation talks with international support is an important factor in securing a more sustainable future in the fulfillment of onerous and worthy duty of building a safe, secure, and stable relationship for the people, for Somaliland and Somalia. Excellencies, allow me to stress the current phase that we are entering is a crucial in shaping the future of the future bilateral relationship between our two neighboring countries. Regional stability and sustainable and prosperous future for the Horn of Africa. However daunting or important such a task is, I remain confident and optimistic that through our and your attention, commitment, hard work, and dedication, we will be able to contribute to the peace and security landscape across the continent of Africa. Excellencies, allow me to present a brief historical background on how we got to where we are today. Republic of Somaliland received its independence from the United Kingdom 26 June 1960. Notification of that independence was duly registered with the United Nations, and 35 countries recognized Somaliland. Somaliland voluntarily united with Somalia 1st July 1960 to form the Somali Republic. The union was not legally binding, as the Act of Union was never formally signed. Therefore, the unification effort fell short of the requirements mandated by domestic and international law. From the beginning, the union malfunctioned as Somaliland people were hugely oppressed The people of Somaliland expressed their displeasure with the Union by overwhelming voting against the new constitution in the referendum held in 1961 and followed full-scale struggle against the Somali Republic. The result in the collapse of Somali Republic in 1991 and the restoration of the independence of the Republic of Somaliland 18 May 1991. Since restoring our independence, Somaliland, with its scarce resources and with limited international support, has embarked on a steady, incremental, and progressive agenda of conflict resolution, peace building, and state building, and establishing good governance and functioning government institutions. We conducted a constitutional referendum in which 97% of Somalilanders voted to support the constitution and the independence. Somaliland, during that period, has made rounds of multi-party free and fair elections, including 3 rounds of presidential elections, 2 rounds of local council elections, and a parliamentary election. Republic of Somaliland has created a conducive environment that enabled a thriving private sector and an inflow of international investment. Somaliland has played an important role in the peace and security of the region and has been a reliable partner in the fight against terrorism, piracy, human trafficking, money laundering, and other forms of organized crimes. Unfortunately, instead of appreciating all those efforts and contributions made by the Somaliland people for the last 30 years, Somalia was in a constant war against the development of Somaliland, economically, security, investment, and this deepened the mistrust and animosity between the two countries. Ever since Somaliland entered hastily into a voluntary union with Somalia, the Somaliland people has been at the receiving end of injustice, discrimination, and state-sponsored genocide at the hands of the Somali government. Evidence of the widespread war crimes committed against the people of Somaliland has been fully documented by the United Nations Special Rapporteur for Human Rights and forensic team from Physicians for Human Rights and Somaliland War Crime Commission. The acts of genocide perpetrated by the Siad Barre regime and are memorialized in more than 200 mass graves in our country. The mass graves, which are still being unearthed, will forever testify to the crimes against humanity committed by the government of Somalia against the people of Somaliland. Therefore, in approaching this present situation in Somaliland and Somalia, it's necessary to have a proper regard to the past and learn lessons from it. The legacy of the oppression against the people of Somaliland cannot be easily swept away. Rather, they must be acknowledged and taken into account when considering Somaliland people's rights to self-determination and independence. The case for Somaliland independence is not unique. This fact is also acknowledged by the African Union mission to Somaliland in 2005. That concluded the situation was sufficiently unique and self-justified in African political history, that the case should not be linked to the notion of Pandora's box. It recommended that the African Union should find a special method of dealing with this outstanding case at the earliest possible date. Furthermore, the 2005 African Union Fact Mission to Somaliland reported that the plethora of problems confronting Somaliland are in part the legacy of political union with Somalia that malfunctioned and brought the destruction and ruin, thereby overburdening the population of Somaliland. Somaliland's claim to independence depends on part its circumstances, including the brief but legal period of independence in 1960. It claims to recognize international borders relating to that period, as can be summarized from the Somaliland's case, unique and demands unique solution. It does not create precedent for other unresolved conflicts in Africa or elsewhere. Somaliland's legal case for independence is the conformity with the international law. Somaliland satisfies the statehood criteria as set out in Montevideo Convention of 1933. Somaliland fulfills the conditions set out in Article 4P of the Constitutive Act of the African Union, which enshrines respect of borders existing on the achievement of independence, since Somaliland borders correspond to those received upon independence from the Great Britain. Somaliland is fully aware that the African context, the exercise of the right to self-determination, is linked to the principle of respect for respecting boundaries. Somaliland's case for independence involves restoring borders of it possessed both as a colonial entity as an independent state. Between 1991 and 2000, the Organization of African Union considered to the break-up of two other unions. In 1989, Senegal opted to terminate its 7-year merger with Gambia as Senegambia Federation, and 1993, Eritrea formally seceded from Ethiopia. Furthermore, in supporting the Comprehensive Peace Agreement signed in 2005 and subsequently independence of South Sudan and its admission to the African Union, the African Union has accepted the break-up of Southern Sudan. The International Court of Justice, in its legal opinion on Kosovo, declared in 10-4 vote that the declaration of independence of Kosovo of the 17th February 2008 did not violate general international law, because the international law provides no prohibition on declaration of independence. Furthermore, the Arbitration Commission of Peace Conference to Yugoslavia produced a series of opinions on the validity of new states' claim to independence and conditions for recognition. The Commission determined inter alia the break-up of Yugoslavia was a case of dissolution rather than cession. Somaliland's pursuit of independence is not a case of cession, but rather dissolution of voluntary union between independent states. A number of African Union member states are also the product of failed union. Mali, Senegal, Gambia, and Egypt have all withdrawn from unions with their borders intact. The African Union has also accepted the independence of territories never previously enjoyed full sovereignty. Following the failure of the unity government, Republic of Somaliland exercised its inherent right to self-determination, which are consistent with the preamble of the United Nations 1948 Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Somaliland has long argued that Somali Republic was two united countries. The failure of the unity government provided adequate ground to the restoration of our independence. We believe in that the key to sustainable and peaceful future lies in the honest and sincere dialogue between Somaliland and Somalia under the auspices of neutral and impartial international mediation mechanism and a guarantor. Somaliland remains committed to peaceful coexistence with Somalia. However, Somaliland insists in that the dialogue should be a two-state process with a substantive agenda that addresses the core issues of the dispute. Today, how can we proceed to this dialogue if the previously signed agreements in London, Istanbul, Accra, and Djibouti were not implemented yet? We cordially propose that a serious mediation mechanism and a guarantor should be in place for this new round dialogue. We thank Somalia for their sincere apology to the horror of yesteryear committed in Somaliland. The current generation of Somalia was, of course, not responsible for what the previous generations did, but it is acknowledgement of the wrongdoings of previous generation is significant and heartfelt appreciated by all Somalilanders. But with acknowledgement also comes responsibility. Responsibility for the damage that horror caused. Words are not enough. Again, words are not enough. The horror of the past requires more than words. It requires actions. The act of recognizing and supporting the independence of Somaliland would go a long way to heal the wounds of the past and enable our states to embrace each other in our independent but closely interwoven futures. I am confident that we can build a bright future together as a brotherly, neighboring nations and for our own people and our region. Thank you very much.